Start with Georgia. What a start. I mean, a perfect picture, perfect start going on the road. I think it's I'll say it again. It's the hardest thing to do in college football, just the crowd, and it affects every week. It affects teams. And Georgia comes out and hits Jaxson Dart 3 plays in a row, about the last times they hit him the rest of the game. And they get a couple sacks. They force the INT, like literally everything about it good. Their offense comes on the field, they pound the football, pound the football, pound the football, 4th and goal, go for it, get it on 4th and short, go up 7-0, Brent, and the Dogs are rolling. And that's where my notes stop for Georgia because there was not much left to talk about that went their way.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was there, like even more to that is Dart comes out of the game with what looked like an ankle injury, but not really. I thought it was his Achilles more than anything. I didn't see his ankle turn, but anyway, he comes out and Simmons comes in, the lefty, and just starts bing, 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 completion after completion after completion. And one of the biggest plays of the game to me was 3rd and 12 or 13 or something like that. He hits a slant route where Georgia is just way off and almost concedes the route, sets up a 4th and 2, 4th and 1 that they go for and then get versus punt and momentum just fully on your side. Once they got that, they quick plays, go down and score. Now it's a ball game. Dart comes back in the game, and Ole Miss just absolutely, completely, utterly dominated Georgia's offensive line the rest of the game.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you've seen these Ole Miss offenses and you've seen them in the past struggle on the offensive line, and that was the biggest difference. But I think one thing that continues to be a little bit of a weakness when you watch Georgia is they can't cover long enough to let their rush get home a lot of times. And you saw that again, like you just talked about, just getting off of press very easily in the slot, getting off of press, being able to get rid of the football pretty quickly when they needed to. They orchestrated. They went well. The weather was sloppy. It wasn't good. I'm always surprised, man, by Georgia firing off the ball, kind of getting their hands on people and playing run when they've thrown the football like 8 of the last 10 times. Like play the
14 out of
passing
18,
game.
1st and 10.
Yeah, I
14
mean,
out of 18, the first start the game.
rush the passer, dude. Like, I mean, I played football, I played defensive line. Like, it's a trend. They're not trying to run the football. They're not good at it. Like, pin your ears back, rush the passer, react to run, and they struggled, man. They didn't look good. And then, I mean, do you want to do it now because the offense just it's not very good, and I don't know where you want to point to. I mean, there were some shots that I think Beck could have taken down the field to Arian Smith, and you saw that on the TV copy when you go hard play action. I thought in the second half again they come out and they manufacture offense with
Mhm.
false pulls and look over here
Reverse.
and then go over here, and like they did a really good job with that. I don't know why they don't start the game with that. If they're going to continue to run the ball from the shotgun, where you don't get an advantage because your quarterback's not going to pull it. He's not going to run the football. The weapons on the out. A lot of frustration. A lot of frustration when you watch Georgia and their offense this season, and it continues. Beck, I saw a stat, but I want you to go ahead and talk about their offense, and I got a stat for you, and I'm going to ask you a trivia question.
Okay, I'll probably get it wrong, but the big thing for me with them offensively is when, like you talked about with that, when you don't have a quarterback that's not a running threat, you have to be very diverse in your run game. And when you sprinkle in things like reverse, jet sweep, counter reverse, all those types of things, you can have some level of consistency in the run game. But this was a game you needed the run game because you just got flat dominated on the offensive line. They actually
Yeah,
blocked Walter Nolan pretty well. They just couldn't block the edges. Umami
and
Ellen got what he wanted as a pass
Brent's
rusher.
got what he wanted. Like,
Yep.
and it's also frustrating when Delp's there to chip and he
And
still gets beat around the edge. Like, dude, if you're chipping, you chip the outside shoulder. Like you use the tackle that's inside of you. And that's not a hard it's not a hard thing to do, honestly. And you should never give up a sack in that instance ever. You ready for the stat of the night?
okay.
Carson Beck is the second quarterback in Georgia football's 132-year history to throw 12 interceptions in a 6-game span. Can you name the other one?
Uh, Mike Bobo.
Yes, that is correct.
I figured there was some element there of that, but yeah, that's you think about who they are. They're a team that turns the ball over a lot every game.
Yeah.
But I,
Well,
I
and
do
and
think,
that was, by the way, that was the I think Georgia was very much in this game, and I
oh
think
yeah,
this game might go different. But that Frazier fumble was enormous. That was an enormous fumble. They're moving the football. The first drive was really good. They get a field goal, moving the football again. He puts on the turf again, and I'm okay saying this. He's their best back. Like he is by far their best back, and he runs hard and he makes things happen. And but you put the ball on the deck with Kirby, you ain't gonna get very many touches, and that's the
yeah.
reason he got in the doghouse in the first place. So your best playmaker now is on the sidelines because he's fumbled. You know, I just the offense it is what it is, but I don't expect it to get fixed. I do spin it forward to next week and I say you're at home and it's a different game. The
Yep.
game is different when you're at home. So I don't just all of a sudden go Tennessee's going to guaranteed to win next week. But if you're waiting for Georgia to change and for Georgia to all of a sudden become explosive, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. I don't think
Well,
they're all of a sudden going to hit a switch and things are going to get drastically better all of a sudden.
if you're a Georgia fan, the thing you have to hope is that you survive somehow the game against Tennessee, and then UMass and Tech, who's not great defensively, you find some level of confidence. You find some mojo back, and then you get in and you have the break to prepare for an opponent and you match up all that sort of stuff. But next week is your Super Bowl. It is survival. But the last thing, or one of the last things for me with this game is the credit to the other side. Kiffin talked about it after the game. After we got completely and utterly stomped, or we as in Ole Miss got stomped last year, we said, hey, we're going to the portal. We're buying a team that will compete physically with that team. And they did it. And that's what they did. And they played for this game. And the other thing was just the game planning part. They throwing a first down, attacking the middle field. They only threw three balls over 20 yards, which was they were like a quarter of their attempts previous to this were that. So they
But
coached for
you
that
know what?
game and he talked about it and they did.
We haven't seen anyone go into the portal at a mass level and be very successful. I'm not sure this might not change some people's minds because I mean they literally just took their whole defense and went like plug and play, all the D linemen, like
Yeah.
Chris Paul at linebacker, and they literally changed the way their whole defense was played. And I mean, Lane Kiffin didn't have to do that on offense because Lane Kiffin knows how to coach offense. He knows how to develop offense. He had a quarterback that stayed, who continued to play. He played well when he came back in the game. You could tell he was still hobbled. He played well, but like moving on from there, somebody in the chat, what about the play calling? Bobo loves the screen game, and this is from Carson Beck for Heisman. So I wonder what
Yeah.
team he cheers for.
Yeah. There we
Get
go.
it, but I also think Brent that I think I don't think he trusts his quarterback anymore. And I think it's a part of the game plan that you've got to be more screen oriented. And they didn't want to throw the football down the field because of the decision making from Carson Beck week in, week out. The receivers dropping balls, number one in the nation now at drop passes. Georgia receivers, Georgia tight ends, like continue to drop it. It's got to be manufactured, and it's a struggle. And
I would take it a
um,
step further. I don't know what he trusts,
yeah,
if anything. Like what like do you trust to protect? No. Do you trust decision making, take care of the football? No. Do you like that? I think to me that's as much as anything.